see them every month, if not several times a month. So we do have a working relationship with him. And so it's not impossible. It has gone on in other venues. It can go on in this particular area. So going back to trust, and I would say, I would echo George, that's where I was starting, that if we do decide to not take this action, and it sounded like we might not, I would throw down the gauntlet to the county that we are trusting you to work with us and talk with us and engage in regional planning with us. And that I think we can bring the port in if we get started.
Thank you, Catherine. First of all, I'll say that I think that we can all do better. We can always do better. It's always interesting to me in Jefferson County that people will come to these meetings, but while we've been engaged in conversation about this for some time, people have the impression that we were doing this on the final day, or that we were not engaged the entire time, because it didn't make the front page of the paper that we were discussing these things, perhaps. And perhaps it wasn't such a polarizing issue as plowing the loop. But nevertheless, I believe that we, all of us, sitting here as well as other elected officials, can always do better in keeping the citizens more informed. But the citizens have a responsibility as well, and that is to be engaged and to understand that we have been along this road and along this ride with the county for some time, and we do have obviously the paper trail to show that. But along with the citizens having responsibilities, we also have responsibilities here. We, four of us, took an oath tonight to uphold laws of which we have certain concerns about in regard to growth management. We have fiduciary responsibilities for the city. And part of our concerns are about both of those things, the laws of the state, as well as the fiduciary responsibilities that we have as a city council. I think that some of the comments about being prudent in times of economic crisis fiscally, I think we need to be prudent fiscally all the time, and perhaps we wouldn't get into bad financial straits. But I just read an article yesterday, I was telling Corey, in the New York Times that said, how to keep your old brain young.
Oh, where's that? I need
And the way that they said to keep your brain fully active is to engage in conversations with people that you don't agree with. Also, you can take a different route to work every day, but there's not too many options in this town. Or to engage in anything that is outside of your comfort zone. So my suggestion, given that all of us could always use a good active brain, is to put that to work. I'll give the county a break here in saying that, given that the rezone was a quasi-judicial manner, we couldn't speak with them one-on-one once it was in front of them. But certainly, we could have spoken with them before. And we asked the port to be present, and they declined. And they declined because they didn't want to be put on the spot, I dare say, about some of these issues that David brought up earlier. What bothers me the most, as Chris pointed out, is that we're here at this point without the proper process. And I know for some people, they think, process is just another dirty word, but I saw some of you at the Clean Water District hearings when we did not want to put a clean water district in the county. And our objection to that was a public hearing does not mean process. having a public hearing for a rezone and assuming that the city will go and attend is not collaboration. It wasn't for the Clean Water District, in which I saw some of you there protesting that, and we protested as well because it wasn't proper enough collaboration and procedure. And this, in my opinion, has not had the correct and full process that it deserved as part of our commitment to the law of Washington and growth management in collaboration between all the entities. I spent 6 years on the County Planning Commission and helped write the comp plan, went through the UDC process and the first year's amendment cycle. So I'm pretty well versed in what the court had tried to do at that time and what it continued to try to do for years since. So I have kept my eye on it. It was never, someone earlier mentioned something about having residential there. That was never part of the plan. It was for buffer. It was about the original lawsuit that the court and the county were engaged in regard to a noise overlay or a noise easement that they ended up working out. But nevertheless, I'll just end by saying that, you know, cooperation and trust, as Catherine talked about, you know, we've asked and we've asked and we've hoped as well. And when we went to those hearings, we said, please don't be preemptive by this rezone. And we had trusted that perhaps that step hadn't been taken. And now you're here tonight asking us the same thing. So it is disappointing that the high road is put on us as opposed to you. And in regard to a comment about a rezone doesn't mean economic development. I said that, and I believe it. Infrastructure in the areas that are zoned industrial or commercial is what will allow people to site there. If you rezone land and it doesn't have water, sewer, electricity, transportation, nothing is going to happen. And that is why the cooperation between all the entities and having a coordinated, concurrent planning, that's what that's about. And though GMA for some people has been a dirty word, we are still sworn to uphold that law. And one of the things that came out of the Real Estate Association, of which I'm a part of, that really didn't like GMA, when this huge housing crisis occurred, the forecasters and the economists of the housing industry said the reason that Washington State wasn't in such a bad situation as the rest of the nation, even though it's bad here, but relatively speaking, was because of growth management and because of what the planning that went on to constrain the growth of just pure sprawl or lots of housing being built that are now in foreclosures. So that came from people that were not in favor of growth management. And then lastly, I'll say that, you know, in terms of grants, grants do make the world much merrier. And it's interesting that there was a comment negatively about grants earlier in the evening, and yet now I'm hearing that the whole reason that this went forward was for a grant, which is sort of ironic. So I'm very willing to listen to motions, and we'll see where we go on this. Or perhaps a proposal without it being in motion form. Mark?
I guess, you know, in terms of